Today on the Create podcast, we're hanging out with someone who knows a thing or two about big adventures and even bigger finish lines. Tom Bamford is a lifelong athlete turned race builder and the chief sweat officer behind Platinum Racing. He's tackled everything from Ironman to off-road XTERRA events, and somewhere along the way decided to start creating races instead of just competing. Since then, he's grown Platinum Racing into a 14-event series across Western Canada, while keeping the spirit of fun, challenge, and creativity at the center of it all. Tom's a problem solver, a weekend warrior, and a guy who believes every obstacle is just another puzzle to figure out. Let's jump in. Do you ever get people asking you what you do when you're not putting on races? Do they assume that you have like 9 months of the year off? Or
Yeah, they often do. They do. And I make a joke because we're so busy in the season, we don't get a lot of sleep. And I say to somebody as a joke, you know what I'm doing November 22nd? And they say, of course not. I said, well, the exact same thing I'm doing November 21st. Nothing.
yeah,
But it's not quite true. It's just sort of a, we'll sleep when we're dead idea. We've got a very busy off season. We have a lot of events we produce. You know, the business starts right after the last event.
yeah,
So that's when the next season starts, essentially. You don't get to wait till March or April. We
yeah,
kick off early.
absolutely. And that's awesome. So I want to start with talking about Platinum Racing because that is where I met you. I did your Grand Fondo kind of out of that like
The Chinook
Markerville
Grand
kind of
Fondo.
the Chinook one, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I love because I have never biked in that area. I shouldn't say I've never biked in that area. Like it's 150K, so I've biked in some of the area. But going into uh,
Sheep River.
Sheep River, that was an amazing experience. So beautiful. Kind
Yeah,
of
and you were
tale of
lucky you had
Alberta.
you had fresh snow up in the hills that morning. You didn't have
Yeah,
to ride in it. You got to look at it because it snowed the night before. So we were lucky the weather was good for riding,
yeah,
um, and some of the athletes did the shorter distances. So we have the 360, 100, and the 150. You did the Whopper. I think we
yeah.
call it the Bronco. The Bronco you did. So well done.
Yeah, it was, and that was my first ever Grand Fondo, and I lucked out because there was a group who have clearly biked that area before, and for the last 50, I kind of hung out behind them and let them pull me in. So I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you that or
No,
not.
that's fine because it's all downhill the last 50 more or less. So that's
Yeah,
no problem. You did all the hard work on the way out.
yeah, no, but
Uh,
it was a lot of fun. So I enjoyed watching just how you guys put that on. So that was as soon as I was able to meet you in that one, I knew I wanted to have you on the podcast to just
Thanks.
kind of pick
Yeah.
your brain because I feel like I wanted to say that you have kind of my dream job. So I have two sides of my brain. On one side of my brain, I do beer festivals, so I have my dream
Yeah.
job. But if I wasn't doing what I do, I would want your job because
Mhm.
yeah, everything and I understand the challenges, but what you get to do and who you get to kind of hang out with is pretty cool.
Well, thanks. It wasn't always my dream job, but we can talk a bit about how we got here.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
it's great to put on events. It's great to bring communities together over something we really love.
Hmm.
And, sometimes it's a nightmare job, though. There's a lot of work to do in a very short amount of time. There's a lot of pressure involved, too.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And the challenge is the day of making it look like it was easy and seamless. And, as there's a million things going on in your head, making it look like it's all good. I kind of think about it as like a duck, it looks very calm, but underneath the water, it's
Yeah.
kicking like a madman.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces, and if you have a good crew and you've got good volunteers and you do a lot of planning, it does work well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely. Thank you, though. It's good to hear that. I'm glad you had a
Yeah.
lot of fun, and we had a mutual acquaintance that kind of brought it together, Colin.
Yeah, Colin, he's always game to do like we come up with stupid ideas and we're both game to do them. So and then our friend Trevor was with us as well. So we
Yeah.
we just had a blast. It's such a beautiful area. We camped overnight is to kind of be able to chill out and have a couple beers afterwards. So yeah, awesome experience. So how long have you had Platinum Racing?
Well, you know what? There's a bit of a backstory and an origin
Sure.
to it. I was an active very active triathlete as a junior, and through the tail of high school into my university years. And coming out of it, I joined a colleague who recruited me and mentored me into many businesses. And the first one was an event production company called Platinum Events. So we put on events. We put on the national championships and a series in Alberta in the early '90s. And
Okay.
and that transitioned out, and I went into the tech sector. Uh, but when I rebooted this, it was an homage to Rob Armstrong's company, so I named it Platinum Racing. Now, I didn't think anybody would remember. That wasn't the point. It was just more of a nod to him and our roots together. So I came back to do this in 2018, and one of the races I loved doing as an age grouper with my family in tow was the Heart of the Rockies triathlon in Invermere every summer. And Bruce Stroud, the race director, had been producing it for, oh, well, since 1982, I think. So it had been on for 30 plus years, almost 40 years. And he was going to phase it out. And I stepped up to ensure it would keep going. And then a funny thing happened. The phone rang, and other race organizers saw there might be an exit. So what do I do with that? I mean, putting on one event as a side gig for fun would be fine, but two of them would be terrible. It's just so much work. And so, I made a conscious decision to step into it in a larger way and produce a series of events.
Oh, that's awesome. So what has it evolved into then? It started with one, you add another one. What does it look like today? How many events
Well,
do you
yeah,
produce?
and it sort of ebbed and flowed. We got through COVID. We took over some new events. We created some events. We expanded outside of Alberta into British Columbia. Although the first event is in BC, but really out onto the West Coast.
Right,
So
right.
now we have a series of running, cycling, and multisport. Multisport being swim, bike, run, or run, bike, run, or swim, bike. All these triathlon derivatives. So those are the three buckets. Those are the three areas that we have events in, and most of them hover around Calgary. And we go up to Edmonton, Red Deer, Invermere, and out to the coast to Victoria for one of our events.
Which one is that?
The Vic Half
Okay.
Triathlon, and we're adding a run to it this summer too. So it's out at Elk Lake, a beautiful venue. And we also have two new runs we're going to bring on board in 2026 for us, which I'm not at liberty to talk about quite yet, but we're growing into the running space,
Okay, cool.
and it's a really great market right now. A lot of people are coming in. In fact, across the board, we're seeing statistics that endurance sports attracting the biggest new demographic is 18 to 26 year olds,
Is that
and
right? That's interesting.
yeah, it's so encouraging because with a lot of the endurance world, our age groupers were sort of phasing out. They were in it for decades, and they get to a
Hmm.
point where they're looking to be less competitive or less participatory, and the numbers were sort of slowly eroding out. Um, Still not an unhealthy level, but still seeing that trend, and that's a natural thing.
Hmm.
COVID gave it a kick in the pants where it accelerated the, so to speak, retirement of a lot of athletes to
Yeah.
say, there's other things I want to do with my time, and it was
Hmm.
discovered. And then now we're seeing this young age group coming in across the board. This is globally, and it's
Hmm.
not just our statistics, but we do produce the Ironman 70.3 Calgary race, so I'm privy to a lot of the global numbers coming out of that organization, and it, it's it's uh, it's a great sign for the future for the sport.
Absolutely. You mentioned at the beginning just the the ability to create community through what you do. Do you think that's a little bit of it with you talk about the younger kids coming
Oh,
into
very
the
much.
sport?
Yeah, we all scratch our head to say why. I mean, we could guess why, but we want to know, is
Hmm.
there a scientific reason why? And it comes back to a little bit of guessing too, to say, well,
Hmm.
they're looking for more authentic experiences. They want to
Hmm.
get away from screens and into environments that are social, connected. Um, you know, they, I think they like everyone else. Like I mean, I hate to put them into their own class. I mean, we were they, if you're of
Hmm.
my age. But you want to get out there and live life, and you might see something, and then you're inspired, and you want some of it. You know,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
want to take a bite of that. I want to challenge myself. I want to do something that's a little scary. I want to be better than I was before. Or man, that just looks like it's a crazy thing to do. Wouldn't that be a
Mhm.
blast? And I might be walking at the end. So what? You know,
Yeah,
let's try it.
totally.
And that's really attractive. So there's a lot of athletic opportunities, right? The endurance run, trail run space is really growing strongly. In general, running is doing better than it ever has. Um, there's all these unique derivatives of multi-sport where people have combinations of events they do. Um, there's lots of adventures to be found out there.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things, because I've had a lot of, friends come with me to various events, and I think people are intimidated by what they think they're going to see, which is these highly competitive, like they think of it as a race, and when what they don't realize until they've actually experienced it, whether it's as a competitor or as just someone um, watching, is how cooperative people are and how much fun people are having. It's a race, but it's more of a race against yourself for most people, right? Obviously, there's
Oh
going to
yeah.
be that elite group at the beginning, but
Well, I mean,
that's not me.
it is a race. It has to be a timed event, or it kind of
Yes.
didn't happen in some ways, right? We have to document that it starts and it stops, and these are the rules, and that's when you officially can tell yourself, "Yeah, I did it,"
Hmm.
um, and that's fine. Now, is it competitive? Only for a very few people with each other,
Hmm.
and then you get in the race within a race, which is age groups,
Yeah.
um, and then you just get your personal challenge to say, can I be better than I was before? Or, maybe improve your time, or just,
Totally.
say, listen, I always fall apart on the last part of the run. This time I'm going to do it well. Or I'm frightened by those hills, or,
Yeah.
I hate that big swim in the lake. But you get through it and you're like, you know what? I don't hate it anymore. It's just a swim in the lake, whatever it might be. So all these layers and tiers. And that's why I think in some ways the lifestyle is addictive, because there's always another um, uh, thing to solve. There's a challenge within the challenge that you can
Yeah.
you can put in front of yourself to say, I think I can get that one done,
Yeah,
right?
100%. I know I did your Calgary 70.3. I've done it for the last few years, but a couple years ago, I was training to do the Penticton Ironman, and I did the 70.3 in Calgary just as
Yeah.
part of my training, and it beat the shit out of me. And I was really just mentally like, oh my God, okay, if I can't do this without being beaten up, how am I going to do Penticton in a month? And so, I
Yeah.
had to sit talk to people who had completed and get some advice. But it was just kind of a fun challenge because it's all of a sudden, okay, you go back to the drawing board. It's like, hey, I'm physically there, but how can I change? How can I improve mentally and stuff
Well,
like that?
right. So that, I mean, I know it's half the distance, but you think, if I can't do the half comfortably, how could I do the full? But what's interesting is they're almost different sports. The
Hmm.
energy systems, the pacing, the nutrition are very much different from
Hmm.
a 5 6 hour day to a 12-hour day for, good athletes.
Yeah.
And and we have, in the old days, we used to say that the half Ironman distance is the hardest, because you're actually racing it, like you're pushing
Hmm.
it. Where in an Ironman, you're not pushing anything, man. You're pushing yourself just to finish. There's
Yeah.
no hard pacing. You made a mistake if you're going hard, unless you're an elite athlete.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you do tend to hurt yourself a little more at that level. And then the Olympic distance, which is the notch down, is half of the 70.3, roughly. You can really put the guns to that kind of an event, right?
Hmm.
Um, and it's funny, I hear people say, "Well, it's only this." You go to the Olympics, and there's still a gold medal for the 1500-meter run and the marathon, and
Yeah.
they hurt differently.
Yeah.
They're all both very legitimate athletic endeavors, and you can argue that about any of these distances. They're they're all legitimate. You can be a master of one and be a failure at the other, and then you grow into it and learn it. So I hope people don't minimize what they're doing, because they're all fantastic challenges if done right.
100%. And they're different mental challenges, which is
Mm.
which is what is what makes them all kind of fun in their own way. I was curious. Because the festivals that I do, the events that I do are almost all indoors. I shouldn't say that because we're adding one that's outdoors, but I've tended to lean away from being, doing outdoor festivals, whereas you're kind of exclusively outdoors. Um, when you think about that as a challenge, how do you not um, how do you not lose your mind? You know what I mean? Because it's a variable that you can't control. And, even talking about the 70.3 last year, like we had, crazy rain and stuff like that.
We
So
did. It had a month of rain.
yeah.
Yeah, we did. Our parking lot was underwater near the wonderful community of Harmony, and we bussed people up from McMahon Stadium and dealt with lots of mud, and thankfully it dried up and cleaned up nicely. Big shout out to the residents out there for hosting us for many years. Yeah, how do you deal with all those variables? And in fact, on the bike course, the weather turned so bad that we had to shorten the course in real
Yeah.
time because people were dropping off out with shivering hands and they couldn't hold the brakes and they're sliding into the ditch. And I mean, we just can't haul back 1,000 athletes and truthfully, because they didn't wear the right clothing. But it
Yeah.
is what it is. As organizers, we deal with everybody's situation. So, there's contingencies, there's workarounds, there's force majeure, there's the things you learn. And thankfully, I had a lot of years as an athlete to go through almost every condition you could think of. So
Right.
I do expect them, and I know what happens in them. Uh, and you just have to prepare, right? And you also know that it's the athlete's experience to prepare, and they might have to drop out. I mean, it's
Hmm.
just that simple. That's on them, and it's often a great decision, right?
Hmm.
I mean, you're not out there to. I mean, you're there to suffer within athletic realms, not necessarily a human being realm.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
heat stroke, hypothermia, sugar loss, all these sorts of things that people tend to get challenges with. So, um, yeah, there's, but weather's just one more of many variables. So when you're organizing an
Mm.
event that has moving parts like a triathlon, you have to have everything ready and set before you start. You can't just get to it in 2 hours. It has to be prepped and ready. So,
Hmm.
you know, all of our life savings in place, all of our guards are there, everything's ready with medical. That's the swim start. But unless the bike course is already manned by RCMP and the roads are set, I can't start the swim. And unless I know I have all the trucks and the aid stations for the run ready, because I can't
Hmm.
just get them out there during the race, everything's sort of shut down, right? Then we
Hmm.
can't start the swim either. So everything has to be ready and turned to go before we start the swim off. And then things can happen in the middle. So, a variable like weather is just one more variable we take care of as it comes along and try to plan for.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things too, is like, yeah, the variables that you can control, make sure they're as dialed in as possible, because the variables that you can't control, it kind of is what it is, right?
Mm,
So, you had a quote here. It said, investing my energy and talent into a lifestyle business, that's what I'm passionate about. So I know a lot of people who start a company that is really focused on their passion. And then the irony is they never get to do what they're passionate about. And so, like, for example, friends of mine who were passionate about brewing beer started a brewery, and now they don't have time to brew beer because they're doing everything else related to the business, and they
right.
can't. Have you been able to find that balance where you still are able to do what you're passionate about when it comes to these sports?
Yeah. Too, though, at my age, I had a lot of years where I got to do my sports as
Yeah.
well on my schedule. And I knew that once I started going into these events, it was like when I got called in the 90s by my friend Rob to say, would you like to be our race director for the national championships? The first thing I thought of is that sounds exciting, and damn, I can't do them now. I was
Right.
going to do the
Yeah.
race, right?
Yeah.
They're back in town. Great. I'm getting ready. Oh, I guess I'm not doing them. And I don't get to race in the summer, which was
Hmm.
always my best time. And like that's the best time to train and prepare. And so I find other times I try to race abroad uh, in the tail end of the season or early season. So I've had events in California, several of those, Texas. I was lucky enough to get out and ride some of the cols and Alps in France and Italy this summer with friends at the end of the year. Um, I work around it.
Hmm.
And that's great because it's not something I want to exactly leave behind. I had a great experience on a bike at Belgian Waffle Ride, which is a fantastic event down in Southern California a couple years ago, which is gravel and off-road and on-road combos. And yeah, so no, it's not gone. But I can tell you there's phases where there's just no energy for real training,
Right.
you know, for proper training. And when I've recruited some other triathletes, some coaches and such to help work with us, after their weekend, they say, I don't even, I can't imagine exercising for a couple days before or after all this. You know what I mean? You just
Oh
whoop.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One of the things, actually, before I forget, I want to talk about the Calgary 70.3 because you just made, in my mind, a pretty major announcement where you are moving the venue and you're now in Cochrane. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah,
So
hot news.
that cannot be an easy thing to move an event like that. So maybe talk about like why you decided to make the change. And in Cochrane, I'm just curious like logistically, where is it going to start, or if you know any of
Yeah.
those details.
Oh, sure. Well, the event is going on to year 17, and
Hmm.
I wasn't involved in all of them. I did them as an athlete, and then I inherited the event from uh, a team of people that had put it on, not just one but many, and several of them have kept on with us, which is fantastic. And the event had its genesis starting out at Ghost Lake for the swim, cycling through Cochrane into Southwest Calgary, and then running around the reservoir. And
Hmm.
then after the floods of 2013, it maneuvered over to Mackenzie Lake in Southeast Calgary, and then eventually across the street to Auburn Bay. And I picked it up in that area. And then I maneuvered the venue over to Harmony, which is a community just west of Calgary near the Springbank Airport. And they were good enough to host us since 2021. And the area riding in Springbank, just west of Calgary, and it gets kind of pushed west because of the ring road, construction, other natural factors. They're even building a
Hmm.
Costco out there now too, which would have
Nuts.
uh, made things a little more challenging. But there's ongoing construction at Harmony, and they said, you know what, we're not able to host an event of this scale this time, so we're looking around at other places, and we thought, well, we used to swim at Ghost Lake, and we rode through Cochrane. Well, why don't we just run in Cochrane? Let's just keep it
Hmm.
there,
Hmm.
um, because we've got quiet roads, beautiful scenery, and frankly, an amazing town that can get right behind the event. Volunteers, spectators, lots to do around that area as a tourist. Close to the Rockies as a base camp, so you can pop in and out. It really seemed to be a great fit, and we were embraced by the town as we approached the idea. And we've been collaborating and getting our courses set and approval from council. So we're really excited. That's the new home of Ironman 70.3 Calgary, Cochrane. And yeah, the course is at Ghost Lake, which is only 15 minutes west. We swam there before. The water's around 17 centigrade, which is the same temperature we had at Harmony this summer. We ride up northward. Well, we go a little bit east and then north
Hmm.
towards Water Valley, not quite that far, but kind of a square loop inside of the foothills. And then we ride back into Cochrane from the top of town down 22 into Cochrane, and we finish at the bike course at the historic ranch, which is um, inland, but kind of near Highway 1A and 22.
Yeah.
That's the start of the run, and we get a little tunnel under the highway, and we're into the parks and green spaces and along the Bow River. We have a beautiful run, a two-loop run along the Bow River, and then we finish in this grand park at the historic ranch at Cochrane. So that's it's going to be on our same weekend as typical, which is the 25th and 26th of July, and that's our new home.
Nice. Yeah, and it will be a beautiful place to run. I used to live in Cochrane, so I did actually the first one out there. So I remember swimming in Ghost Lake, and in my brain, it's cold, but it's funny because this year it was pretty damn cold. And
Well, they're all cold for the first 2 minutes, and I'm not
yeah,
trying to make light of this. Penticton Ironman, the last one they held at Penticton, they canceled the swim because overnight, this is in August, the lake turned
yeah,
over with the wind, and the water was only 13. They couldn't hold the swim anymore. that can happen.
Yeah.
When I race in California, it's in April or in December, and the water's about 14 and a half.
Yeah.
Um, and it's okay. I mean, for the first minute or two, you're cold, and then you get going. It is a challenge, though, for some of the slower swimmers. And I always say, listen, the harder you swim, the warmer you'll be. So don't go too easy. You know, because if you're a little person and you've got wetsuits, of course, are typically, you know, mandatory if the weather's a bit rougher. But uh, you know, it's sort of a par temperature for Canadian lakes. You know, that's the way
Right.
I see it too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of the things that struck me when I first met you when we were doing the Grand Fondo was I thought it was really cool that you kind of have this as a family event. I don't know if it's forced labor, or if it's volunteer or what, but you guys just had to really. I just it always just I guess I'm quite mindful with what the culture of different organizations are, because we try to have a pretty positive one. I know, like, my mom still helps us with our festivals. My business partner's mom was always there until she passed away, and we've always had like really close family and friends helping us. And so when I saw that with your culture, I thought that was pretty cool. And having your wife and your kids be able to work with you must be pretty fun.
Yeah, thanks for saying so. And I mean, now they're in college and university years and
Yeah.
high school, and we started younger, so they weren't always quite there, and they've grown into it. And
Yeah.
and we have other cousins and relatives. My 84-year-old dad is still helping out on the course, and uh, it's great because everyone is good at what they're doing. They
Hmm.
work very hard. They want to make sure that the athletes are happy and it's safe and it runs on time.
Hmm.
And I think, gosh, I had a job since I was 12, newspapers or whatever it might have been.
Hmm.
And I wanted my kids to get up early and have a hard day and
Hmm.
and actually have a front row seat to how things work. Not
Hmm.
just the logistics of it, but what's the business of it? I mean, I'll give this guy two shirts. I'm like, well, no, they get one. Like, or make sure they're happy, give them more food, or
Yeah.
like there's the financial side of it all too to make sure it happens.
Yeah.
And it's been a great learning experience, I think, for them all. And I don't see it stopping anytime soon.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. I want to kind of maybe ask you a few questions kind of before you created Platinum. So you were in the tech
yeah,
sector for 20 years, is that right?
at least maybe
At
25
least 25.
more,
Um,
maybe a little bit more. And I'm
so
still
you
sort of in
worked,
it.
yeah,
I'm still in it in a roundabout way, but yeah,
okay,
yeah.
cool. So you started TESSALink in 2004. You worked with three startups, I think you said. So maybe talk about how you transitioned, because really you went from event organizer, race organizer, into tech, and then back into organizing races. So what was the reason for the move into tech to begin with?
Well, I was young and I was taken there by my mentor Rob, and we did the events, and then he was starting uh, uh, into a new company in '95, and he said, "There's going to be a spot for you," and I said, "I don't even own a computer." He says, "No, you're going to be perfect because we're actually selling software to people that don't know how to use software." I said, "Oh, yeah, I'd be great for that."
I'm the guy. Yeah.
Your guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but but it was wonderful. You find something to get enthusiastic about. And I got put out on the road and I was traveling all over North America, marketing and selling software. And then I got into a couple small companies like that. And then I got picked up by some much larger tech firms. And I got the experience of the grand global IBMs and ERP systems and Deloitte's, and I really had the chance to absorb. And then I said, it's time to try one. Let's go build one. And I was waiting, and then suddenly, what do you know? I got a call from a friend saying, I got something. I think I might turn it into a company. I
Hmm.
said, but let's have a look. And then we decided to start the TESSALink company. At the time, it was called InfoChip. So it was software and hardware. We did RFID chips, and we did an app for safety and inspection purposes for oil field and other industries, and grew it. And moved it to Houston and had customers all over the world. So that was a fantastic run. But also after 20 years, I was ready for change. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought I did what I could do in that space. I had a lot of success early, and then we had a long run at TESSALink, and you know, it excited me to think I could do this multi-sport thing and turn it into a series and just say, I'm going to put my energy there, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure it's got some continuity, which is why I started, but then make sure it's a good place for me to be. Then I'm motivated and I like it, and it's got intrinsic rewards, right? And it's financially stable enough to say this is what I do with my time,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I like that. You mentioned your mentor a couple of times. How important have has having mentors been in terms of looking at your success over your career?
It's funny. I had such a fantastic one with Rob Armstrong at the beginning that now I always try to seek new ones, no matter where I am. They might be
Hmm.
younger than I am. They could be my age, or they could definitely be older, because there's always so much to learn. And I think
Hmm.
people genuinely want to share. They want to say, "Listen, this is a great way to try it." Um, you might save yourself some trouble, or did you know? Yeah, no, I didn't know. Thank you. Now I do. So I'm
Hmm.
always looking. I get inspired by people all the time, right? I mean, what do they know that I don't? It's phenomenal. It really gave me a great head start. It put me 10 years ahead of my age in my career. It let me have confidence to do all sorts of things. And I'm always looking for new challenges because I'm not afraid to learn something new. Not afraid to fail, because I know I've got the toolkit to get there. You know,
Yeah.
maybe not on the first hit, but we'll get there. And so I encourage that in people is to find people that they can share with. Call it mentoring, call it what you will,
Yeah.
and then just be generous with yourself, right? And it's
Hmm.
not about flexing. It's about shared knowledge. It's about tribal knowledge, moving around the tribe, right?
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. So what has your I'm always curious what people think about, risk tolerance or relationship to failure. Has has the way you think about those types of things changed through your career with mentorship and stuff like that? Or have you always just been
Yeah, well, I guess you could always say why something won't work. Um,
mhm,
but then you could also say, here's the 5, 6 reasons it can. And maybe there's a great reason and there's not great reasons, but they all work.
mhm,
And you craft solutions that get you to one of those alternatives. And it
mhm,
might be not the best. I mean, I'll tell you, with this business, we took over and absorbed a lot of events and bought a lot of events, and then the pandemic hit.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do you do with that? You
Mhm,
know, but that's just something that is part of life, part of business,
mhm,
and that's why it's good to have resources behind you and save for a rainy day and things like that. Not to gamble, but to make some calculated moves
yeah.
and uh, be prepared for the next one, right?
Yeah.
So
Um,
risk tolerance. There's gambling, and then there's planned risk, and
yeah.
and then knowing that we might have 3 or 4 alternatives that are not all the best, but they're better than where we were. So
Yeah,
let's build on
exactly.
them and go from there.
Is there any advice you've gotten from a mentor that's kind of resonated with you and that's kind of helped you or guide your the way you do business?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a good old line that's like, why do we climb that mountain? Well, it's because we can.
Hmm.
I mean, life's to be lived. Um, Challenges are there to excite you and to grow. And I think that if you reflect that, I can. Why are you not?
Hmm.
Um, I really think that especially good opportunities, they're not found all the time. So if something comes through, you do have to reach yourself out, and it's
Hmm.
going to take some striving and suffering, I suppose. But um, you know, when something good happens, get behind it,
Yeah.
make something of it.
You said it's never as hard as it could be. It's just a riddle to solve. Um, Probably a good mentality to have in your line of work, just because there are always challenges, whether it's changing venues or whatever. But is that something that is that sort of a mindset you've always had, or is that a mindset you've
Well,
learned over the
I
years?
suppose let's not whine about it. Let's get on with taking care of it, and that's all part of it, right? There's going to be
Yeah.
unexpected results and consequences, and that's just a grown-up way of seeing the world, right?
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. You mentioned in your notes the 1988 Olympics as being something that kind of changed you in some way. I just was curious what that was.
Yeah, well, like most people in my generation, I was an active kid, played tons of sports, was always doing something. Um, but when the Olympics rolled through in 1988 the the global attention and the excitement, and you realize we had 8 years to build up to this, right? We started
Hmm.
hearing about it when we were in elementary school, and then this big experience of Olympics comes to town, and you got to see it firsthand, and the passion, the excitement of it. It stirs something to say, you know what, I want to get into competitive sport in a bigger way. Where do you go with it, right? I chose triathlon. That was my one that I thought of doing. Cycling was very attractive to me too, but I thought, well, I'm not going to get on a team, so gosh, I'll just enter a triathlon. All they need is a check. And then what do you know? At 16, I got a call back from the race director saying, "You're too young. I don't want you in that lake." So another year of swimming, and I got in the next one. And I kept going until I got better, and that sort of started, I think, from that. Um,
Hmm.
but that triathlon I mentioned that I took over out in Invermere, it'd been going on. I got to watch that every summer go by, and that was quite intriguing too, to see this crazy group of people out there, swimming, biking, and running. We couldn't believe how far it was, like 2 kilometers. That's a long stretch of water. Like, are they safe? I don't know.
Yeah.
Are there boats to help them? What if they get thirsty? Well, that's a
Yeah.
dumb thing to think of. But all of it just seems so grand, didn't it? It was this thing, and and the Hawaiian Ironman was really at the time a hot um, endurance topic. It was in the zeitgeist of sport, and the romance of it was intriguing to a lot of people. And I didn't say right away, I'm going to go to Ironman. It was no,
Hmm.
no, I just want to do a triathlon.
Hmm.
That's what hooked me into it. And I just loved it. So I've been lucky to keep that going.
I love that. And actually, I wanted to ask what a couple of things. The Xterra off road.
Mm.
That was that. There was one in Canmore, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Tony Smith produced a number of them in Canmore. He brought it to Canada. Uh, uh, I think Cal Zariski was involved in that quite a bit too. And I mean, ops or ownership, I wasn't quite sure, but it was a qualifier for the Maui Worlds, and it's a off-road triathlon. So swim,
Yeah.
like mountain bike, technical mountain bike, and then trail run.
Yeah.
And a crazy fun. And now they moved it from Maui to Italy, and the Worlds are coming back this time to New Mexico, close to Albuquerque. So next year, XTERRA is going to be there, and I think there was one in BC. I don't know how many of them are left around in our neck of the woods, but you can find them around North America. They're another great fun endurance challenge.
Yeah. I did that. I did one in Canmore years ago, and yeah, it beat me up. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I hope you made it through the coal chutes okay. It was a
I
little
mean,
nutty down there.
yeah. Well, my chain broke at a certain point, and I was just
Oh
yeah.
well,
It taught me a few lessons. Let's just say that.
yeah, they didn't pull any punches. They made that a technical course. I thought, in fact, it was a little onerous from that point of view. A lot of athletes didn't know what they're getting into, but
Yeah.
uh, it was legit for sure.
I remember following some guy, and then he stopped at a certain point. He's like, "Do you know where we're going?" And I'm like, "We were on our bikes." And I'm like, "No, man, I was following you." And he's like, "I
Yeah.
don't know where we're going." And then sorry, the Belgian Waffle Ride. I got to ask what that is too.
Well, a team of people in the U.S. started this years ago. I think it's on to 15 years, and they've got 5, 6 races around North America. And it's a really exciting combination of gravel biking, road, and trail. And they crisscross every great mountain in the area, and they have distances from 60 to 200 kilometers. The Wana, the wafer and the waffle, right? And the idea of the why is it called Belgian Waffle Ride? Because they wanted to make it like a grand event, one of the spring classics from Belgium. Like the Liège Baston Liège or a you know, Tour Flanders or some other grand event. And then the waffle side was they used to have waffles as a group ride down there after they did this big ride. They go for waffles. So they still give you waffles at the event, and it's just a real dynamic sort of laid back yet difficult and challenging, depending on distance, event. And the one in Southern California is gorgeous. They're moving to a new start finish zone this year near San Mateo and Oceanside. I know they have events in Arizona, Salt Lake. They've got one up in Montana now, North Carolina. I'm going to keep popping up and around. So that's another great series to try. Something a little different, but a lot of fun.
Nice. So I was curious about your vision for Platinum. You mentioned growing into larger events. Do you have a specific, like, do you have kind of like a crazy idea in your head that you would love to see come to reality?
Well, we put on 15 gun starts across the season, and some of them are little small community runs. Others are big, like the Ironman 70.3. We'd like to move into more of the big events, scale wise, right? And so we're looking at some big running races, and just to grow that space, we've already got the triathlon looked after, and I could do some spots in cycling, but the truth is, big cycling's pretty tough to handle with permits in Alberta. There just aren't a lot of places for it. Right. They've been able to position some good gravel events, like down near Claire's home and the Ghost Gravel. They're not really massive scaled races, but and the Badlands Grand Final have done a fantastic job out at Drumheller with pretty big size scale. But for me, I think our direction is moving into running and big running, and we look forward to bringing our love of the sport and our panache to it, and make sure these events are something special where people get to them and they continue, right?
Yeah.
We want this stuff to be around. We want a
Absolutely.
destination on your fitness path every year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's get a reason to get out
100%.
in the morning and get out there and train and get out there in the rain and the cold a little bit to say, yeah, I got my homework's coming due here. I got to get in shape.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's nice to have those things to look forward to, right? And especially, what you have, what level of shape you have to be in. So you know that you can't, people say that they are mental, and they definitely are mental. But when you're in the process of doing a half Ironman or what have you, it's also extremely physical. So, you want to make sure that you're dialed in. But what's nice is having those things to look forward to kind of keep you, for me anyway, keeping myself active throughout the year. So it's a lot of fun. So I'm definitely grateful that you've done it, that you stepped up to take these on.
Consistency is king with fitness. It matters even way more than what you're actually doing. You could be a rather poorly trained athlete, but if you're doing it every day or two, you're gonna do much better. So having events in your life scheduled, even if it's a personal challenge, like you're going to go hike a mountain or something, great. But you put it down on paper, commit yourself to doing it, and then you find that you're actually better at everything. You're better not just at your athletic life, but you're more organized as a human, because you're not going to get the training in unless other things are taken care of, right?
Totally.
And when you get back, you realize, oh, I got other things to do. So you get on them, and you just don't sit around waiting for things to happen. You're doing it. So I've had people challenge to say, oh, you triathlete guys are always gone training. And I said, well, some of them might be, but I know when I was doing it, I'd be up at 5 a.m. on a Saturday, so I get my bike ride in before taking my kids to soccer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's how I rolled. And
Yeah.
and I know what we did after soccer. I was probably mowing the lawn or something. It wasn't as if it's all about me, but it made me very productive. And I just love what it does for people, not just
Absolutely.
out on the pitch, but day to day.
No, 100%. Like I said, when I first met you, just watching, how you were organizing and just watching the culture that you had, I really, from day one, I've been bugging you since then, probably. And so I'm grateful that you did have the time to do this. And I look forward to obviously seeing you at a few of the races next summer.
Yeah. Well, let's get you out.
Yeah, 100%. Actually, and I will say, I was telling my kids that this morning, that I'd love to have, and they were very interested. I said, let's volunteer for one of these, because I would like for them to also see kind of what is behind the scenes, to see that it's very collaborative and very fun, as opposed to something to be scared about.
I think one of the best things you can do for kids is have them volunteer at an endurance event and
Hmm.
watch people out there doing it. Watch
Hmm.
normal people dressing up and getting it done.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing like that to inspire a kid to say, that's pretty cool.
Hmm.
Like, it's not on TV. These are real people doing it. And you're
Yeah.
helping, you're handing water, or you're doing something, you're involved in it. They take ownership. They got it done because those kids showed up. I think that's phenomenal. So I
Yeah.
would tell people, bring some kids out to something. Let them see it firsthand. Don't let that slip by.
When I think also too, I remember bringing my dad to, my first marathon that I ever ran years ago, when I was in university, and he came out with me to Kelowna, and he sat at the finish line watching people finish,
Mm.
um, waiting for me, and he was just totally blown away at every shape and size of human being was crossing that finish line, and he was like really really inspired by, and because you think that this like super elite athlete is like all
No,
triathletes
I
are this,
know, I
right?
know.
And to see the people, that just the range of human beings, and just the personal, you can just see it in their eyes. It's a personal challenge for them, and it's awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The finish lines are one of the most emotional places on earth. And I
Oh
tell
yeah.
people this too. I say, you will remember this day for the rest of your life. And I'm not
Yeah.
trying to be cheesy. I just know they will.
Yeah.
I know there's some big days, and this is one of them. You will remember this, and
Yeah.
you've earned it. So
It's yeah, it is 100%, because as you're crossing the finish line, it's almost like all of the training that went into it is like flashing before your eyes, and then you're crossing the line, right? So it's yeah. When I was in Penticton, I was lucky enough to have my brother with me, and so he was there with me, and that was cool because we used to always go to hockey school in Penticton, and we'd
yeah.
watch these people training, right? So it was on my bucket list. I'm like, I need to do this one day. And so, and lucky enough, it happened to be the last year it was there, because now it's in Ottawa, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, they have moved on. Ottawa's a great venue. They've got a good course, a good community
mhm,
support. We had such a great time in Penticton for many years. The kind of we look at it like the home of the sport in Canada, right? For
mhm.
so long, and great. You're staying at it. You start off with a run. You get into triathlon. Who knows what's next for you?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been fun, but yeah, thank you for like you said, keeping all of these alive, keeping it as part of our kind of like local culture, to have these things to look forward to. And yeah, thanks for sharing your story with me. I appreciate that.
Happy to. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Tom. Thanks so much for listening to the Create Podcast. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. See you next Wednesday.